If you're Islam Makhachev, you're coming up against Bobby Green, you're going to watch that Haqparast fight and you're going to think to yourself, well, I'm not going to stand there and get punched. I'm going to be throwing kicks, I'm going to be moving in and out of range, and I'm certainly going to be trying to wrestle him. That could be real problematic for Bobby Green because that gives him a lot of things to think about and a lot of reasons to move his feet as well as his head. And if he has to move his feet, he can't move his head nearly as well. As I think about this fight, and as you all think about this fight, and as we all know what to expect in this fight, the expectation is that Makhachev is going to kind of slowly walk him down behind a good barrage of kicks, soften him up with strikes, and not being too much of a risk to take him down. But as soon as there's an opportunity to get his hands on him, he's going to grab him, he's going to throw him around, he's going to put him on the floor, and he's most likely going to either put him on his back and tap him with an arm triangle, or he's going to take his back and tap him with a rear naked choke. If Makhachev comes out and decides he's going to try and wrestle, then I would expect Bobby Green to have good scrambles, good ability to scramble back to his feet, to defend the early takedowns and to make it difficult. But let's be honest, I think Makhachev, once he gets his hands on him, it's only a matter of time before he puts him on the floor. You know, Makhachev has always impressed me with his wrestling, and we go through his record and you see the guys that he's beaten, you see the way that he's beaten them, he's manhandled them, knocking out Gleison Tibau. One of the best performances for me was against Arman Tsarukyan, and that was Tsarukyan's UFC debut in St. Petersburg, Russia. It was a wrestling extravaganza. It was one of the best grappling matches in an MMA fight I've ever seen. It's definitely worth you going to watch it, but that shows you where Makhachev's wrestling is at, and that chain of wrestling that he throws at his opponents, I think will be just too much for Bobby Green. I think we're going to see Bobby Green taken out of his game. I think he's going to look very uncomfortable at points in the fight, and I think if he's got the toughness and determination, the best he can hope for is to get to the end of the fight without getting submitted. The one counter to that, of course, is the one loss on Makhachev's record. There is a caveat. First of all, it's worth remembering that this was a very different Islam Makhachev going into that fight. At the time, going into the Adriano Martins fight, he was 12-0. He was undefeated. He was emerging in the shadow of Khabib, and everyone was like, this kid's next. You think Khabib's good, wait till you see what Islam Makhachev's going to be able to do in a few years' time. And that was the vibe that Khabib and the whole team were giving us as well. He was too overzealous in the Adriano Martins fight, and if you remember the knockout, it was because he was crashing forward and Martins drifted away and caught him with a counter hook. That, to me, is a good lesson for a fighter that was a little too overzealous, and he's not made that mistake since. Like, he's not been running onto shots. He's been a lot calmer and a lot more measured with his striking. It would have probably been better for Bobby Green had Adriano Martins' fight never happened, because then that lesson may not have been learned, and he might still be vulnerable to that one-punch shot when he comes crashing forward too overzealous. But that was a little wake-up call for him, and of course he was devastated, and that's going to be motivation through his next 11 fights and training camps. But the change that it would have made in his mentality is, I'm not putting myself at that kind of risk anymore, and he's going to identify Bobby Green as being a potential threat to that. So he's not going to make those mistakes again. I think Bobby's going to have to be really sensible about how he approaches this fight, how he expends his energy, and when he's throwing his shots. Because if he overreaches, he's going to get tied up. If he gets tied up, he may miss his only opportunity in that round to land something before he's taken down, and then he spends the next 4.5 minutes scrambling back to his feet.